Penny's a solo mum. Her son Finn had a stroke just days after he was born. Lise knew her son Jaden would be born with spina bifida. Kim refers to her 3 boys as her perfect family. Jackson and Jacob have autism. Jaram has a learning disability. Sharon's son Elliot is unable to communicate, but she showers him with love.
It's waiting here with Mama.
Tania's boy has severe autism. She's had to make a call on what's best for her son and her family. Natalie and her sons Stefan and Jake share the same medical condition that causes all 3 to live with severe pain. Every year, more than 60,000 women will give birth in New Zealand, and thousands of those new mums will have babies with disabilities.
We knew that Elliot had hydrocephalus before he was born.
The daycare said, we reckon he's got autism.
We didn't really know what the situation was going to be when he was born, what he was going to be like.
And it was like probably the first time I'd heard the word.
All of a sudden I had this child that wasn't actually going to be the child perhaps that you dream the child will be.
The Plunkett book went out the window and I started to look at how Finn was progressing and what he was doing.
You just have to compromise and your expectations just totally change and you've got to do things their way, not your way.
In the early months, Sharon's son Elliot seemed to be reaching all the usual milestones, even if it was later than most children.
Ow. Yes, ow, good.
He was talking. He could say what he wanted. He could say cup of tea and yum and banana. He could sort of vocalise what he needed. And although he couldn't walk very well, he could get to where he was going.
Where'd they go with the big bus, eh?
Elliot was born with brain damage. Right from the beginning, Sharon adjusted her expectations. Elliot was 8 years old when he had a massive, unexpected seizure.
We were down at the beach and he hadn't had a seizure for 4 years.
Thank you, Warren.
All right, see you tomorrow.
And then Henry and I went down that morning and he'd had a massive seizure in the night and vomited and aspirated vomit and was quite blue when we found him.
From that day on, Elliot could no longer interact with his mum or the world around him. He's blind and no one knows if he hears. He barely moves.
I think for a while at Starship they didn't expect him to survive, but he did.
It's dinner time, Elliot.
He's in nappies. He's now tube fed. He's on quite a regime of drugs that need to be quite strictly timetabled. Now that he's bigger, he's 13 and he's a big 13, so he's got absolutely no control over any parts of his body. So if you roll Elliot to his side to change him, for example, his head flops into his pillow and he can suffocate himself.
Sharon doesn't need anything back from her son, but she does worry about Elliot's life.
I don't feel sorry for myself, and I don't think Henry does either, because I think apart from Elliot and all those issues, we have a great life. You know, we were lucky. I mean, sometimes I look at it and think, well, at least I've got a child. Should we read Harry McCleary again? Harry McCleary from Donaldson's Dairy. There's no response from Elliot now. It's very hard to know whether he's comfortable or happy or is he in pain. That's the worst thing, is not knowing whether he needs pain relief or is something hurting him? Is he uncomfortable? He can't tell us anything. And occasionally now he will smile and laugh at things that take his fancy, but that's very rare. And before, I think, even though he was quite disabled, he was very responsive to the things he liked. He would giggle uncontrollably if someone sneezed. Now he has no way of imposing his will at all on any of us, and I find that's the hardest thing for me, really, the big change in him. That he doesn't have that freedom anymore to do what, to be in the world. Hello. You got your happy face on. Right. Okay. having your dinner? Is it nice?
The other mums understand those tough times.
At the very beginning, when they were little, it was so hard. Just unbelievable. I never got any sleep, basically, maybe 2 hours a night, if you were lucky.
He was totally out of control. He was very teary, he was aggressive, he couldn't stop his body moving. It was hard, and I was a mess.
It's a constant battle. There's constantly things that you have to think about. And sometimes I just don't want to think. Sometimes I want to be able to just say, yep, I'm going away and I'm not doing anything else.
I can understand how you can love someone so much, but then at the same time, you're just so frustrated. You certainly get tested.
Jake has autism. Tania first noticed changes in him when he was a toddler. His behaviour soon became erratic, dangerous for himself and others. Jake's now 14, and Tania regrets he can no longer live with the family.
Sit. Yeah. Want to pet the puppy? Say hi to the pup. He used to recognise who I was. He would always acknowledge me, like I'd go and pick him up from his cot in the morning, and his eyes would be bright, and he'd always put his arms out to me. And then it was over a period of time when he didn't care anymore. It was like he just wouldn't even acknowledge that I was in the room.
Tania believed if she did more love, more energy, she could make a difference to Jake's behaviour.
I suppose Jake's autism got worse. Yeah, he picked up funny little habits and self-abuse started more. He would hurt himself quite badly. He would rip up the carpet. You know, it was all those sorts of negative behaviours and the poo smearing and all those sorts of things that just, you know, it takes its toll.
Tania met and married Gary. They had 2 more children. Gary was more than willing to share the responsibility for Jake, but Tania reached her limit. In her gut, she knew Jake was impacting on the entire family.
When Harry came along, that was the struggle, I think, managing a baby, a toddler, and also Jake as well. It was like, which child do I keep safe? We'd been receiving some regular respite care. That fell through. I mean, you're as strong as your weakest link. And when that link broke in the chain, basically, we started to fall apart. I was desperate because I could see what it was doing to the family, and yeah, something had to give. So we did a very radical approach and fought to have Jake in residential care.
Hi, Snakey. How are you, honey? Mama kiss.
For the last 7 years, Jake has lived apart from his mum. She picks him up every Sunday and takes him home for the day.
Now, basically, when Jake comes, he's more comes in, I think, to make contact with me.
See you.
He just needs to get a fix and just touch base. Friends and family were really supportive because they could see the life that we were living. I felt judged by other people, probably because I was judging myself. I felt like, oh, how could someone do that, give away their child, because that's always what it felt like for me. But I made a decision that was best for our family. It wasn't about anybody else's family, it was about our family and what was going to work and what was going to keep us together and what was going to keep Jake happy and safe. I miss Jake terribly, but we were still together as a family, and I think that was the biggest thing for me, was that it was the only way for the family to stay together.
Life has balance now. And that's something the other mums agree is hard to achieve.
I have been so caught up in Finn that I've lost sight of who I am as a person. And it takes a lot. It's a bit of a struggle, really, to make sure that I say, no, I have to be myself and do things that a normal adult would do.
I'm always the one organising everything and telling everyone how they should do stuff, and I've had to let that go a bit because otherwise I'll be doing it all myself, and I just can't.
As much as I love my boys so much and I'll do anything for them, I have to remember to look after myself, because if I don't look after myself, then there's no one to look after them, and that continues to be a challenge for me.
Natalie has a condition that causes chronic pain. Multiple hereditary exostosis.
When I was younger, I had surgery on my left knee. They've had to operate on that 3 times. And I also had surgery on my right knee, which has been done twice because the tumours can grow back.
And her sons, Jack and Stefan, have inherited it from her. All 3 develop cartilage tumours on their bones, and surgeries needed to remove them.
I see their pain and I feel their pain. Every day they're in pain.
Correct.
Juice, Jack?
Yes, please.
Although we look okay, it actually creates quite a lot of grief, just the day-to-day sort of things that we have to do. The best way to describe it would be that you're walking that fine line every day. You wake up in the morning, you're in pain. Hopefully you've managed some sleep. We don't often sleep because of the pain. You can't lie on one side because you've got tumours on that side. You turn over, you can't lie on your left side because you've got tumours on that side.
Is it working? Yeah, just...
Jack missed most of the last year at school. Successive surgeries have put him behind. He's lost a lot of confidence, and the longer he leaves it, the harder it is to catch up.
I didn't foresee that my kids would have emotional challenges as they do. Physical challenges maybe, yeah, but not the emotional stuff, not the going back to school and the social stuff and all those, the psychological. You know, Jack's fear of needles is incredible from the amount of surgeries he's had. Blood tests, you go anywhere near him, and those little things, yeah. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to have so many surgeries, and I actually hoped that it would stop at some stage. I wasn't told much when I was younger. I knew I had a bone condition. My parents didn't talk about it. It was quite taboo. We just didn't talk about it.
Natalie's learning to accept that she's not the only mum who unwittingly passed on a condition to her children.
And the fact that I passed it on, guilt is big, huge. I try not to focus on that.
Our biggest guilt actually, and Henry's the same, is the fact that he had this huge seizure and we were upstairs asleep and we weren't with him when he aspirated vomit. And I've talked to nurses and doctors and they all say there's nothing you could have done. It would have happened anyway.
The kids are awesome. It helps my friends be better parents because they probably think they're so lucky that they're not in my situation, but they get to learn and appreciate their kids better is what I think, yeah. Yeah. I suppose you get a bit jealous at times, you know, when I sit and watch all the families at the park and you kind of, you know, but I won't bring myself down on it because we'll get that chance eventually, yeah. Well, I hope so, yeah. Jaram is my eldest. He's got dyspraxia. And then Jacob and Jackson both have autism. Severe is their classification, but they have certainly improved, you know. They were basically off planet Earth for quite a few years.
Like cakes. I will you to dizzy like.
It's just what it is, really. You know, it would be probably easier if they were normal, so-called normal children, but then I'd be so busy after school sports and all that sort of thing. So, in a sense, I have it easier than most parents, really. I don't have those things to do after school. Basically, once the padlock's on, I'm pretty safe. I can just sit and relax.
Cool. Hi, Jack.
Hi, baby.
Yeah, good boy.
Kim and the boys live behind a 7-foot-high perimeter fence. That's because Jacob and Jackson tend to bolt at any opportunity. Their unpredictable behaviour means they just don't go out.
And Jack, want a snack? Yes. Pardon? Yes, please.
Well, if it's unsafe, I'm not doing it. It's all there is to it, you know.
Use your teeth, remember?
Safety first. That's why I built over the driveway now, because I'm not losing them. It's just, yeah. Yeah, it's life and death, basically. That's the scary thing, is if they get out, you know, anything could happen. And with no speech, they can't say their name or where they live.
Kim had 5 miscarriages before her boys were born. And despite the challenges, she considers herself blessed.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm grateful for what I've got. Definitely grateful. Yeah, they're cool kids. They're just hard work.
I win.
Rewarding things is just their joy, their achievements. I mean, goodness, for what is wrong with their bodies, their skeletal body, the lumps and the bumps all over them, they continue to give everything that they do 100%.
He teaches you about finding joy in life and humour and laughing at everything, never giving up, just persevering with things.
I love seeing him live his life, and I love seeing him being the person that he's becoming, because he's great. He's a positive, happy boy who likes to play soccer and basketball.
Are you ready? Everyone?
We're all ready.
Not you, smarty pants.
Annie knew Finn would be born with a heart condition, but it was an unexpected stroke after surgery that caused her severe disabilities.
Come on.
I was in shock. I mean, I was in shock because I had a child who had just undergone major heart surgery. I was 24 and pretty naive, and it just felt like something else had just been thrown on top of me.
Now you want to see my room, don't you? Do you?
I knew what a stroke was, but I'd only ever associated it with elderly people. It took quite a while to process.
What's that you've got there?
My beard. Do you want to see how it works?
And I can really recall one of the doctors just saying,
Right, you can come out now.
your child really won't have a lot of function.
Baby, don't be horrible.
You just take your baby home and just see how things go. Oh, left hand green.
What one's my left?
Your big one.
Being a young solo parent, Annie felt professionals didn't give her much credit.
Left foot blow.
What is the
I remember I had a run-in with one doctor, and he kind of said to me, well, I'm the doctor and you're the mother, so you'll listen to me. And I walked out of there so angry. I thought, I am never, ever going to be talked to like that again. And so I really educated myself. And with that came the strength to be able to question doctors. And with that became the strength to be able to say, enough. Before I had Finn, I was a bit of a social butterfly.
Come on.
But I made a conscious choice to have a child. I don't think any parent, when they are pregnant, thinks that they're going to have a child born with a disability. But I made that conscious choice, and I love my son. So I can't, as hard as it is sometimes, and it is really hard, I can't walk away from him. So you have to find that strength. But something was happening. What do you think's happening?
4 cheetahs.
4 snow leopards.
No one could predict how Finn would develop, so Annie threw herself into supporting his learning.
At the moment, I'm learning to go through that process of accepting Finn may never read. And I've spent years and a lot of money, a lot of research and different techniques and different programs of getting Finn to read. And I've finally come to the place now where it may not happen. The only person that can save you is yourself. And there was being a single parent is hard work. It's very lonely. You don't have that other person to bounce ideas off. You don't have that other person to pick up the slack. So you just have to dig deep and keep doing it.
Finn's disability means he's prone to seizures. They're controlled by a cocktail of drugs that can make him either volatile or drowsy. It's a constant balancing act.
Okay, let's go. Grandma's waiting.
Like most of these mums, Annie thinks Finn has changed her, for the better.
Finn really grounded me. He made me really take a good long hard look at myself and really look at who I was as a person and what was important. And partying and going out with your friends when you have a child is not important anymore.
Sometimes I think, you know, bring it on. There's nothing that we can't. I mean, Henry last year had prostate cancer. I had cancer a couple of years ago. It's just, God, oh, okay, you've got cancer. Okay, well, we'll deal with that. You know, it's just, you can deal with more than you actually ever imagine you're going to be able to deal with. You can.
I think when you have a child, especially a child with got some extra needs, you become, I don't know if it's more stubborn or just more resilient. You have more perseverance. You're determined that, you know, your child is going to get what they deserve, and that, you know, you try to, I guess you protect them, but also to fight for their rights.
Why do you not want me to win?
When Lise was told her unborn son had spina bifida, it was the last thing she expected.
You do everything the doctors tell you to do. You're healthy. You know, I wasn't drinking or smoking. You know, when you do all those things that you're supposed to do, you don't always expect the opposite to happen, that you're told that you're going to have a child that's got some serious medical conditions.
Doctors initially advised Lise to abort her unborn son.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I went to an obstetrician appointment, just what was supposed to be sort of a regular checkup. So she said that they've found some anomalies with the brain and the spine. They're not sure what it is. It could be spina bifida. They're not sure how severe it is. It was all rattled off to me quite quickly. Then she started saying that if there's chromosomal issues, we can do an amniocentesis, and if there's chromosomal issues, then you can terminate. And, you know, it was all sort of spoken all within a matter of about 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? Excuse me?
This is my room.
And what's on the walls?
Helen Clark and the Prime Minister.
Jaden was born with other internal complications. Lise put pressure on herself to learn as much as she could about his condition and figure out how to best manage his care.
I'd feel guilty if we didn't do his exercises all the time, or we didn't, you know, get him to do what he was supposed to do as part of the program. But then there comes a time where I felt that it wasn't making him happy. We didn't know what the long-term goal or the long-term results would be from doing this program. Would he walk? You know, how more independent would he be? There's always that sense of guilt if we pushed him a bit more. Would he do that? But you have to get to the point where you can only do what you can do, and you just want a happy person.
Ready? Today, Jaden is a happy and outgoing kid with a love of the TV cameras.
We don't see him as disabled. We see him as a child that's got a lot more abilities than he has disabilities.
Is Greg doing it?
I think Greg's got our picture too.
He'll hang out with the wheel blacks. He'll go disabled surfing. He'll just do whatever because he's Jaden. I know people with disabilities are a lot more in the community than obviously in the past as they used to be. And I think they're just as important members of society as anybody else. And if people can see them just leading normal lives and doing great things, then I think it's great.
Bye, everybody!
All these parents know that the responsibility and the worry will last longer than it might have done if the kids didn't have a disability.
I don't know where they're going to get to. You know, they're only so young yet, you know, and they're at school till they're 21, so they've got... Jacob's improved so much, I've got very high expectations. Jackson, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, sweet. I'll leave you in peace. Part of me thinks, well, maybe we won't have him when he's 21. You know, there's a part that thinks, well, there'll come a time when we won't have Elliot anymore, and maybe that will be how it should be. The thought of having Elliot when I'm in my 80s and he's in his... God, you know, I don't know how people cope with that at all.
We want to smile on that face. Yeah, I mean, I worry about discrimination and about people not giving him a fair opportunity. Jaden does have quite a big voice, so I can see him getting into politics or something.
Oh, you're going to use the kisses, are you, to get out?
We don't coddle him or overprotect him because he needs to learn to take risks and just live life.
Hi, honey. How are you?
Closed? Yeah.
I'll just go.
Hopefully, the boys he's with, Spectrum Care, they will just stay together. That's my hope for him for the future. He'll stay at school till he's 21, and then after that, I'm not too sure what will happen. I don't know if Jake would be able to do any form of employment. But I never say never. You never know.
I worry a lot about the future. I worry about my health, my mobility, the fact that I can't do what I used to do, how that's going to affect my kids. I worry about their mobility issues. I live their hopes and dreams, but I do try to just be in the now and keep my energy for now, because if I worry too much about the future, it's quite scary.
Then you have to take your shoes and socks off.
I think that there's a time for me where I'm going to have to learn to start stepping back and let him make mistakes and give him his independence. I would like to see that my son will one day have a job that he loves, and lives in a place where he's happy and can go out with his friends like any other young adult and have a good life.